Hey, what's up you guys? So today I wanted to talk about Thunderhead by NEAL SHUSTERMAN. So this is the second book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. If you're curious what Scythe is about, I have a book talk for it where I discuss everything about Scythe and my thoughts on it. There's a non-spoilery section and a spoilery section, so if you've read the book, you can check that out, or if you haven't read the book, you can still check that out. So Thunderhead is the second book in the series, and so this picks up where Scythe left off. If you have not read Scythe yet, do check out my book talk if you want to know what it's about, because I'm just going to launch into what happened in Scythe, so I'm about to spoil Scythe for you. So in Scythe, what happened was we had Citra and Rowan, and they were both Scythe apprentices. And for the first half of that book, they were apprenticed under Scythe Faraday. Around the midway point of the book, Scythe Faraday, he faked his death, and they were both put under the apprenticeship of different scythes. So Rowan was put under the apprenticeship of Scythe Godard, and Citra was put under the apprenticeship of Scythe Curry, and I'm just gonna call them Godard and Curry. I can't pronounce names, just a bit of a warning, so if I mispronounce names, I apologize. But anyways, they were both put under these different scythes. Curry is a old guard scythe, and Godard is a new guard scythe. And so what that means is that Godard really relishes the kill, and he thinks that it's okay for him to enjoy his job, which is effectively murdering people. Curry, on the other hand, thinks that you need to take some reverence and, be like, I kill people, that's not great, it is a necessary function. And so it's just a difference between relishing the kill and causing people more suffering than they need versus not relishing the kill, being respectful towards those that you are killing, and so on. So that is essentially what is going on in Scythe. And so at the end of Scythe, Rowan and Citra have to battle it out to figure out who's going to be the one who is actually going to be appointed to the Scythedom, which it winds up being Citra. And when I say battle it out, they don't really battle, they just take the tests, and then the Scythes pick who they liked better, and they pick Citra. So after that, Rowan is supposed to be gleaned by Citra, but Citra is able to orchestrate this punch in the face that causes Rowan to get immunity, so thankfully he is not killed. And so at the end of the book, we discover that he has taken up this position as Scythe Lucifer. What he is doing is he's trying to glean those who are like Godard, who he had killed previously in Scythe. And he's trying to kill these scythes that are relishing the kill and causing more pain than they need to, and who aren't being very respectful to those that they are killing, or who are killing unethically by, say, killing one race more than another. So that is where Scythe leaves off. And so Thunderhead picks up from there, and it is about Rowan and his journey as Scythe Lucifer, and Citra and her journey as an apprentice to the Scythedom. And it also deals a lot with the Thunderhead, which is the overarching government of the world that they have. So the Thunderhead is probably one of my favorite things about this book. Overall, I really enjoyed Thunderhead. I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It had what Scythe was missing in my opinion, which was just randomly humorous lines. There was one line in here about the dodo bird. Like, it was just really random and thrown in there, and I loved it because it just brought something a little extra to the book. It brought that little spice. It gave me that more book that I wanted with Scythe. So I definitely recommend this book. I absolutely loved the characters. I think that they really developed and grew in this book, and they were so strong. I also really appreciated getting more insight into Scythe Faraday and Tiger in this book. I feel like in the first book I could almost give them one line of description and that was all that they were in that book, but in this book they really grew and developed into different characters. I also really loved all of the twists and turns in Thunderhead. It had so many, and I was honestly surprised by each and every one of them, but at the same time, when I was surprised, it wasn't something that was just out of the blue or seemed random. It seemed like it was calculated and like the book had been leading up to that twist. So I was just overall really happy with this book. There were points where I had to close the book and just take a step back for a second because I was so shook. Now I would like to get into some of my spoilery thoughts and feels on the book. So if you have not read Thunderhead and want to, please leave now. I definitely recommend it. Bye to all the people who haven't read it yet. I'm just gonna go through and recap the different characters that are in this book and what they are doing. So Faraday, he is probably the one with the easiest storyline to talk about because it's pretty straightforward. So he is still in hiding from the Scythedom, because he faked his death, and he decides that he wants to go look for the land of Nod. And I liked that reference to ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. I really like the reference to that old nursery rhyme with their own nursery rhyme of the nursery rhyme for the land of Nod. And so I just thought that was a really cool drawback, and I really like the connections overall that were made in this book. Like that, where it was like something that we know about, but like something that is very far off for the Scythes to know about. about? So anyways, he looks for the Land of Nod, he goes to the library in Alexandria, and he meets Munera, and he and Munera like look into what's going on with this whole Land of Nod thing, seeing if they can find it, and they notice that the Thunderhead has a blind spot. And I really loved the entry from the Thunderhead when they found the blind spot, and the Thunderhead was like, I didn't know. I mean, I knew that I don't, you know, route flights that way. I knew that I don't have like really a presence there, but I've never really been concerned about it before. Should I be concerned about it? Like, I loved that little entry. That was probably like my favorite entry in the book. Hello?
Are you filming something?
I am.
Can I say hi to YouTube? Hi, YouTube. Okay.
But I really like that entry that the Thunderhead did where he realized that he had that blind spot and he was like, why am I not concerned that I have this blind spot? And I love that entry. I thought that it was really cool, and it really helped to humanize the Thunderhead a little bit. If I ever say Thunderbird instead of Thunderhead, I mean Thunderhead. Sometimes my mind just reads Thunderbird instead of Thunderhead. I don't know why. So anyways, love that entry. And they go looking for the Land of Nod, and they go to like the Library of Congress to see what is in that blind spot where the Thunderhead doesn't show anything being there, and they discover the Marshall Islands. And so in the toll, they're going to go to the Marshall Islands and see what is up there. So I'm really excited to see them and see what they can find as far as what will help to save the Scythedom or whatever kind of failsafe there is there. So their plotline is really easy and probably the most separate from everyone else's. So now I'm going to get into the Citra plotline. So Citra she's a junior scythe to Curry, and so she is, you know, doing her gleanings. I think that the way that she chose to do her gleanings was pretty cool compared to like other people, and I kind of liked it a little bit. I mean, it's still like not cool to kill people, but like I just feel like she offered some different perspective on it than some of the other scythes did, and I liked that. I liked that she was kind of a different voice in that organization. So anyways, she is doing her gleanings, and there is a plot to assassinate her and Curry, and so they have to try to figure out what is going on with this plot to assassinate her and Curry, and the Thunderhead is kind of there rooting for them. So the Thunderhead takes one of his guys, Gleason, and he is able to get him in the unsavory crowd and get him to be kind of like an undercover agent, which was one of the funnest things that was going on in this book, in my opinion. I mean, it was so different from everyone else's plotline that was going on and everyone else's story in the book, and so I just really appreciated this thing that was just completely different, and it showed us a different side of this world, of what it's like to not be a scythe, but also what it's like to be unsavory. Like, it showed us such a different side of the world. So I absolutely appreciated that and loved it. And so Gleason is following along with the Thunderhead's plan for trying to uncover what is going on here, and he is able to shed some insight that it is a scythe behind this. And so they are able to try to manipulate things to try to figure out who is behind this assassination plot, and they get to the Winter Conclave where the High Blade goes to be the High Guard or whatever it's called. So anyways, he's deciding that he's gonna leave his post, so they need to vote on a new High Blade, and so Curry is nominated as well as some other guy whose name I do not remember right now, but he's not important because right before it's time to vote, in walks Godard, who is back from the dead. He died in the last book, but he somehow managed to stay alive, which ties into Rowan's plotline, so I will get to it when I talk about Rowan. But he is alive, and he gets nominated instead of the other guy who was originally nominated. So it becomes this battle between Godard and Curry. Who's gonna win? We don't know, because Citra does a genius thing. So she does not want Godard to win no matter what. They don't want to take the chance that he could get it, even like at all, no chances. So she calls for an inquest at the last possible second, and that buys them the time to be able to figure out a way to try to discredit Godard. And so in order to discredit him, they are essentially saying he is 7% of who he was. Like, his body is 7% of the body that was made aside. His body is 93% some random party kid, the party kid being Tiger. So in doing that, they are able to actually get him to not be put in place as the High Blade. So they go and do the whole inquest thing at Enduro, which was really cool to also see a different part of the Scythedom, and seeing how that is like the one kind of rundown place in the world. Like, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful as described in the book, but it's the one place where elevators are sometimes out of order, or sometimes the lights flicker, stuff like that. So it was kind of funny that that was something that was made apparent, and I thought that it was really cool how that was used as like foreshadowing in a way for what would happen after Godard was discredited from being the High Blade. And so Citra and Curry, they go do the inquest, and Curry winds up getting the position of High Blade. When that happens, Godard decides, fuck this shit, I'm out. So he decides to sink the entirety of Endura. I mean, it wasn't originally his plan to sink all of Endura, he just wanted to sink the Grand Slayers, but he sank the entire place. And so in doing so, he is able to put himself in that position that he wanted of High Blade with absolutely no one in the way to stop him. So it was just, that ending was so shook, like it had me so shook. I was not expecting that at all. It really turned the entire story on its head, and I'm really curious to see where it's gonna go in the Toll. So now let's get to Rowan. So Rowan starts off the book as Scythe Lucifer. He runs into Tiger, who tells him that his father has been gleaned. So he decides to try to figure out who gleaned his father, and he figures out that it was Scythe Brams, who's someone that he saved earlier in the book. And when I say saved, I mean that loosely. He just didn't kill him. So he gets really, really mad, and he just goes storming in to where Scythe Brams lives, and lo and behold, Scythe Brams laid a trap, which he should have seen coming. And I loved that you got that little bit about he was told not to fight in anger. He was told not to go glean in anger, but he did it anyways. And so I liked that he had been given the advice and he didn't follow that advice. I liked seeing how not following the advice of someone who knows more than you actually affected him in this book. I thought that that was really cool, and I just really appreciated it, and it really shows how some of the older Scythes are a lot wiser than, you know, Rowan, who is a very new. And I like that, especially because I feel like a lot of times Rowan especially is just physically better than a lot of other Scythes and things, and I'm like, why is he so physically good at things? And now it's kind of okay because he's got a bit of a flaw. He doesn't always think things through. He is still really smart, but he doesn't always have that genius brain that's running. So anyways, liked seeing him kind of get knocked on his ass there, and it really, again, turned things on its head with him being captured and then him going to Texas with Rand. Side note on Texas, Texas was my favorite thing in this book aside from the Thunderhead, because it was just so Texas to be like, this is the land with no laws. It's just Texas. Like, that is such a Texas mentality. But anyways, so we go to Texas with Rowan, and he is put into the clutches of Rand. So we discover that Brams is just a little underling to Rand in her goals that she's trying to accomplish. So she has Tiger there, and she is trying to prep Tiger's body for something. We don't know what it is. Tiger thinks that he's going to become a Scythe. All of us reading the book know she's not going to do that. So she gets Rowan to start fighting Tiger to help prepare his body for something. And then we get the mic drop of Godard rolling in Tiger's body with Godard's head. And I was just like, oh my god. Like, you did not, oh my, like, I had no words. I literally had no words. I had to put the book down and just take a second. I had to take a breather. I needed a moment, because that was so, like, I was not expecting it at all. And that was such a fantastic twist. I love that twist. I mean, I was, like, so shook and so concerned for my characters, but, like, that twist, it was so perfect, and it made so much sense. So, we get Scythe Godard being back. It's terrifying, and Godard goes to the Winter Conclave, as I said before, and he then goes to the inquest, and he kind of carries Rowan along with him to these various things, and just kind of kills Rowan whenever he feels like it, and Rowan is just trapped like a little kitten in a cage. So he is able to kind of talk Rand into letting him escape after Godard pisses Rand off. And when he does that, he finds Citra to warn her that he knows Godard is up to something. At this point, they're on Endura. So this is right before Endura starts to sink. So now let's back up to where Citra was. And so now Rowan and Citra are together, so their plotline is now merged together, and they are going forward together. And so Endura is sinking, they have to get off. What do? Do they try the planes? You can't fly off because the planes are all crashing. You can't take a boat off because a whale wrecked all the docks. So what is there to do? Curry comes up with a solution. Her solution is, I'm gonna trap them in a vault, and then we're gonna Captain America this shit. So she traps them in a vault, and they sink to the bottom of the ocean, and who knows what's gonna happen to them now. And the Thunderhead is really not happy with the whole Endura thinking, everyone on Endura dying aside from Rowan and Citra, but the Thunderhead doesn't know that. So the Thunderhead lets off this wail of upsetness, and it is the Great Resonance, which was so funny to me because I loved the Tonus. The Tonus are like one of my favorite parts about the book too, just because they're so ridiculous. Like they're just weird. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's like they are such a cult, and they're like not like a dangerous cult where it's like they are sacrificing virgins. It's like they are a cult where they are worshiping a tuning fork. Who worships a tuning fork? So anyways, they, are like, oh my god, it's the Great Resonance. And the Thunderhead is so upset, and I just loved the Thunderhead in this book, and I loved his kind of journey and how he was just like this awesome background present the entire time, and he felt almost godlike to me. Like he's not a god, he is the Thunderhead, like he is an artificial intelligence entity, but he is like, he feels godlike to me. Like he feels like, I don't know, he feels like that, except instead of being like people think God is now, where God doesn't really talk to you, you can just talk to it. I think that's really cool that you can that it talks back to you, like I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. So it felt very godlike to me, and I really liked the Thunderhead. And so the Thunderhead, in its anguish, marks everyone as unsavory except for Gleason. So I'm so curious to see what's going to happen with Gleason in this next book, because he was another one of my favorite introductions in this book. He was a character that just showed us such a different perspective on this world, and I'm really looking forward to seeing his journey in this next book. So as far as what I think is going to happen in this whole, I'm really not sure, because this book has left me so shook, and it turned the whole world on its head. It turned everything on its head. I know Godard is going to be the High Blade. I know that we're going to have to find Rowan and Citra somehow. I know that Faraday is going to find the Land of Nod, but I don't know how any of this is going to go down. I don't know what the Land of Nod is going to look like. I don't know what the Scythe failsafe is going to look like. I have no clue how we're going to find Rowan and Citra, because as far as I'm aware, they're just lost to the sea. So let's see what happens in the toll. I'm about to start it now. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I post new videos. Comment down below what your thoughts were for Thunderhead, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!